up, coming right up next here. Very, very important update. It really, really speaks to a large consensus that's been going on in our world today. Jeffrey Epstein emails. It's something that specifically mentions and discusses the interface of AI neural networking. Very interesting and fascinating piece. That's up next here on JTC Investigations. Thank you.
So right here is where I love how easily it can be broken down. The psychology of some of these jokers here, and how these just interesting Egyptian types with their with a few of their Zionist first, global allies, how they really think. And this is what I like because it simplifies all of it to make it much more palatable, digestible. This is from Jeffrey Epstein, to somebody he's been working with, in the Heritage Foundation, and he's like, on why cultural explanations are important. It is at root a simple, fundamental Darwinian point of view. That's what they all claim. Evolution works on heritable variation. Human culture is much more variable than human genes, for example, so the scope for cultural evolution is greater than for genetic evolution. A simple example is the cultural adaptive radiation of humans in the Holocene. We recently spoke about 7,000 languages, most of them associated with more or less distinctive social and subsistence systems. A few languages like Spanish or Chinese are spoken in societies with a great deal of internal social and economic diversity. Culturally, we are sort of like thousands of species, but generally we are only one. To understand the adaptive radiation without understanding evolution is impossible, says Boyd. Boyd and not my genes alone, how culture transformed into human evolution. Transhumanism is what they're talking about. With the parasite class who were underneath Egypt, really at the core, which is kind of fascinating. It is at root a simple, fundamental Darwinian point of view. Evolution works on inevitable traits, not on human genetics. So the scope for cultural evolution is greater than genetic. Of course, this is fascinating because it's been proven false, throughout history. And that's why, Egypt went away for a long time, so to speak. And they were the ones who kind of captured Babylon, back in the day. Talked about everything about Babylon the Great. Well, that led back to Egypt, who put everybody and the Israelites, all the Europeans and everyone in captivity. So interesting that they are, championing this cause again. And this is what Epstein loves to, espouse, talking to attempt to control society. They get all of that from the language. Every single person, folks, on an individual level, different, separate, So this is very fascinating that they want to espouse this whole virtue with everyone. It definitely goes back to Egypt. That no, everybody is very same, and we need to adapt to how the same everyone is, and have a double or a clone of people at that point. That goes into this whole AI obsession that these people have, including Epstein, with what they want to do with AI, which is just beyond comprehension. These people are a little bit over the edge. The philosophy of these globalists, um, some of which come out of the Israel bloc. A lot of who just originate in Egypt, which is interesting. This is what Egypt still believes today, and I find that fascinating. Nevertheless, it takes a lot of time. I'm intending to set up a network of stem cell clinical institutes in California to make treatments, to be able to try for these new molecular research on actual growth of humans. Very interesting and bizarre stuff. The one thing that's different is that we can't compensate any women, but we can pay for their drugs instead. I think it would be very useful to develop the cell lines. Of course, they don't really care about this stuff. That's just a means to an end. See, there's $3 billion in grants for espousing this stuff. I don't think it's very competitive. What's important is the $3 billion that's taken away from our competition. People are collaborating, and that's why we're moving so fast. iPS cells have a very strong memory of what they were, whether they were a blood cell or skin cell. Embryonic stem cells are being used for therapy, but iPS cells are being taken for patients with different diseases to interrogate the disease. It's not therapeutic or anything. It's just science. Yeah, it's science. They're trying to clone and are cloning literal stem cells, to create where they can, transhuman type of stuff. It's science, that's true. And it's crazy. Wild science. So I'm grateful that all of you are, really calling this out in the Epstein files. It's just fascinating what's going on out there. And of course, it's also horrific the amount of times that they did this to younger adolescents, to children, things like that. It's really horrifying what's in the files on that. But it's fascinating, the amount of times that they talk about they're going to grow a new type of human, some kind of facsimile of a human by cloning their stem cell. And I think that says it all about where these people are really coming from. They will do anything for a quick buck, even if it means signing on to something that honestly is pretty crazy, such as the Transhumanism project, in Ecuador, and now that they're trying to run and do test runs in Egypt. So thank you. But what do you have to say? What are your feelings? Your genuine thoughts on this? Sound off in the comments, of course, down below. It's always important to hear your perspective. There's more to explore. Sign away the rights for the child in the event they had a falling out. She says that they refused to sign any waiver or parental documents, and this, of course, is what leads to them alleging that this is connected kind of to an AI child that they were trying to manufacture. It wouldn't be surprising, of course, as there are some unusual things that these people are. AI is right at the top of that list.